Lovers of lore, thank you for joining me for this discussion of the Lorwyn Eclipsed newly created gods. Lorwyn has undergone some massive changes. In the past, Lorwyn was caught in a 300-year cycle of change, switching from Lorwyn into Shadowmoor. So you would have the light world, where everything was more friendly and fanciful, and you would have the dark world, where things were a lot harder, and the most negative aspects of people's personalities would be pushed to the forefront. Now, that was locked in because of the powerful fairy Una. After her defeat, Lorwyn underwent a massive change. It's unclear whether it is returning to its original state or has turned into something brand new, but it has been altered in a massive way where both Lorwyn and Shadowmoor coexist at the same time. So there's no longer a cycle that switches the entire plane from one to another. Now there are random spots that end up changing. And at the first moment when this initial shift started, it was pure chaos. Lorwyn and Shadowmoor were smashing into each other in all these different locations. Entire villages could be subsumed in a single moment. So you could be in a village in the light of Lorwyn, and all of a sudden that entire village is swallowed up in Shadowmoor. And when this transformation happens, it doesn't just change the actual landscape, it changes the people who live there as well. Your fundamental nature will change, and at the same time, it will also alter your memories. So when you switch into the dark version, you only have funny, fuzzy memories of the light version of yourself, and you feel like you've always lived in these dark lands. And this led to some really unfortunate situations where farmers would literally forget everything they had learned about farming, their crops would wither, and communities would lose out on food and other necessities because of these unexpected changes. So they started to slam in very rapidly all over the place. Over time, the plane started to stabilize to a degree. It still does have shifts, but instead of being massive swallowing shifts, the borders of Lorwyn or Shadowmoor will push a little more inwards. It will creep towards each other in a kind of more gentle fight. It doesn't cause the same sort of sweeping changes, but there is an unanticipated side effect of this, and that is the fact that when you get a certain area that's butted up specifically right against Lorwyn and Shadowmoor together, they can actually merge into something called an eclipsed realm. So in this realm, time behaves very differently. The moon and the sun are actually locked in stasis in the air in these eclipsed realms. And anybody who goes into these eclipsed realms will actually have both parts of their nature come together at once, because everybody who's born on Lorwyn actually essentially has twin souls. They have their dark soul and their light soul. So when you enter into the eclipsed realms, these souls start to merge. And what happens is your mind literally cannot deal with the cognitive dissonance that exists between the two versions of yourself. And what happens to literally everybody who spends time in these places for too long, they start to permanently change. They lose their desire. They lose their emotion to the point of no longer even moving. They start to calcify. And this has become a thing to the point where individuals who have this happen to them are called calciforms. So all of this happened either as a result of or a side effect of the birth of Lorwyn's two new gods. Up until this point, Lorwyn didn't have any gods. These are essentially the manifestation of Lorwyn's twin world soul. So you have a light and dark concept going on here, and only one of these gods will be awake at any given moment. So they balance the light and dark pretty much perfectly between them. Now, on top of that, they have literally no interest in anybody on Lorwyn. So originally when these gods manifested, people were freaking out. You have light and dark just tearing across the land. People are losing who they are. There's all these different problems. And now you have these towering, massive beings just wandering the world. What do they want from us? Apparently nothing. They have no specific desires of the denizens. They essentially just continue in a cycle to keep the day and night going. So basically you have Eridu, who is the Lorwyn side god. So this is a big flying kind of dragon-esque beast that has a glowing sun straight up on its head. It's just like a giant flying sun dragon, almost, right? So around Eridu, you get feelings of like soft breezes. It's a rejuvenating feel, contented. Now, nobody tries to go after this god, but if they did, Eridu actually has the power to use the sun's heat to create these gigantic pillars of light that just incinerate anything that they come into contact with. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have Isilu. This is the Shadowmoor god. So, this one obviously has the moon aspect, right? On top of that, calming silence filled with people who are around Isilu are filled with an understanding of deep secrets of life. So this isn't a situation where the sun represents good and the moon represents evil. Both of these gods are peaceful. They do not interact in a negative way with any of the denizens of Lorwyn. When it comes to Isilu, if required to defend himself, can actually blanket the world in pure darkness, impenetrable by light, but on top of that, it literally drains your will to live. Even though the gods have no interest in the denizens of Lorwyn, religions have sprung up around both of them. The adherents of Eridu want the world to be entirely encompassed in Lorwyn, daytime all the time, brightness and light. On the other side of the coin, Isilu's worshippers want Shadowmoor to be the entirety of the world and for it to be perpetual night. There are ways to resist the transforming nature that these gods have caused with these different pockets of Lorwyn and Shadowmoor, but they require particular talismans. These magical reliquaries will allow you to travel through the appropriate realm without being changed. So if you wish to go into Shadowmoor and remain the Lorwyn version of yourself, you need a Lorwyn reliquary, and the same holds true for Shadowmoor. If you can get your hands on both reliquaries, that means you can actually travel through the Eclipsed lands and not be transformed in any way as well. It's very obvious that these gods have had a massive impact on the world of Lorwyn, and I am very curious to see how this will develop. What sort of goals do these gods have, and where will this take us overall with the world of Lorwyn? That ends this installment of the Lorwyn Eclipsed lore. I hope you enjoyed it. There's definitely more to talk about, so stay tuned. We'll be back soon. A big thank you to my channel members and patrons for supporting what I do here. And I will see you all, my friends, in the next video. Until then, remember, lore is life.